The encounter the sky turned red as Ryan Cole's ship broke through the clouds of the alien moon. Sparks flew inside the cockpit as warning lights flashed. System failure, prepare for impact. The ship's AI repeated in a calm voice. Ryan held the controls tightly, his hands shaking. He had trained for this. But nothing prepared him for a real crash. The ground came fast. The ship hit hard. And everything went dark. Hours later, Ryan opened his eyes. Pain shot through his arm, but he was alive. The front of the ship was gone. Smoke rising from the wreck, he grabbed his survival pack and stepped outside. The air was breathable. The gravity light, but something felt wrong. It was too quiet, too empty. He was on an old moon colony marked Outpost Zeta, once used by alien races. Now long forgotten. Broken towers rose like skeletons. Metal and stone covered in moss and dust. Ryan walked slowly, scanning for signs of life. Then he heard a sound. A whisper carried by the wind, following the voice. He found a ruined building with a collapsed roof. Inside, a figure lay on the ground, an alien woman. Tall and thin, her skin pale blue. Her body was weak, her breathing slow. Next to her, two small alien children huddled together. They looked scared but unharmed. Ryan knelt beside her. "Are you okay?" The alien woman opened her eyes. They were silver, glowing slightly. She struggled to speak, her voice soft and broken. "You? A human," she said. "Please, help them." Ryan looked at the children, then back at her. "What happened here?" he asked. "They killed everyone," she whispered. "My people." "Gone." Ryan felt a chill. "Who?" he asked, but she only shook her head. She took his hand and placed a glowing pendant in it. "Protect them," she said. "Adopt them. Make them yours." Ryan was speechless. "I'm not a father," he said. "I don't know how." The alien widow smiled weakly. "You care? That is enough." Her last words were strange. "They are not what they seem." Then she closed her eyes and didn't move again. Ryan sat there in silence. The children didn't cry. They simply stared at him with big eyes that reflected the red sky. He stood up and looked around. There was no one else. He couldn't leave them here. He picked up the smaller child and held the other's hand. "All right, let's find a place to rest," he said. They walked through the ruins until they found a half-broken shelter. Ryan built a small fire using scrap and fuel cells from his ship. He gave the children food from his pack. They ate quietly, watching him without fear. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He kept looking at the pendant. It had strange symbols on it. Glowing softly, he pressed it, and a small light appeared, a hologram of the alien widow. She spoke in a soft voice. "To the human who finds this, I trust you. I was once part of the High Council of Alari. My children carry the future of my kind. Enemies will come for them, protect them. And they will protect you." Ryan stared at the hologram until it vanished. He looked at the children, now sleeping side by side. They looked peaceful, innocent, but something inside told him this was bigger than a rescue. Later that night, he woke up suddenly. The fire had died down, and shadows moved outside. He grabbed his plasma pistol and stood guard. Nothing came in, but he felt like he was being watched. Above in the sky, he saw small lights moving, not stars, but drones. The next morning, one of the children tugged on his arm. She pointed at the wall. A message was written in glowing dust. It wasn't there before. It said, "You are being tested." Ryan stepped outside, looked at the horizon, and sighed. He came here for a simple mission. Now, he was responsible for two alien children with a strange past. He had no idea what waited out there. But one thing was clear. He couldn't go back. Not yet. Not without answers. He tightened the strap of his pack, picked up the pendant, and looked at the kids. "Come on," he said. Let's see what secrets this moon is hiding. Bert and Ryan woke up early, his back sore from sleeping on the hard floor. The shelter was cold and dark, but the children were still asleep. He stared at them quietly, wondering who they really were. They looked like small alien children, but something about them felt different. They never cried, never asked questions. And they always watched him closely. He stepped outside the ruins to look around. The sky was gray, and dust clouds moved slowly in the wind. He checked the map on his wrist device. It showed a few damaged structures nearby, maybe old labs or storage units he decided to explore before others came. Before leaving, he made sure the children were safe inside. He handed them some energy bars, pointed at the fire, and said, "Stay here, I'll be back soon." They nodded silently, their glowing eyes following him until he disappeared behind the wall. The path was rough, filled with broken machines and twisted metal. He climbed over wreckage and entered a half-buried building. Inside, he found old control panels, shattered glass, and faded symbols on the walls. He saw a symbol matching the one on the widow's pendant. Maybe this was once her workplace. A soft beep came from under a pile of metal. Ryan pushed the junk aside and found a small data cube. He placed it on his wrist device and waited. A file opened part of a journal written by the alien widow. It read, "The war destroyed our cities. The council betrayed us. I escaped with the children. But they are not normal. They were created for something more. My people feared them, but I loved them. If you're reading this, you must be human, and that means I trust you." Ryan stood still, the words sinking into his mind. The children were created. For what? Were they weapons? Leaders? Something else? He had more questions than answers. Suddenly, he heard a sound. Footsteps. He quickly hid behind a broken console and waited. A shadow moved past the doorway, tall and thin, wearing dark armor. The figure scanned the room, then left without. Noticing him, Ryan waited 5 minutes before leaving. Back at the shelter, the children ran to him as soon as they saw him. One of them hugged his leg, something they hadn't done before. He knelt down and smiled. "I'm okay," that night. They sat around the fire. The older child, a girl, pointed at the pendant around Ryan's neck. She touched it gently, and it lit up on its own. A map appeared in the air, showing a route through the mountains nearby. It ended at a glowing mark titled Sanctuary. Ryan looked at the children. "Is this where your mother wanted to take you?" he asked. The boy nodded. "Then we'll go," Ryan said. "But we have to be careful." They slept early, but Ryan stayed awake, thinking this was no longer just about surviving. He was now carrying a burden to lives that others wanted to take or use. He didn't know why he had been chosen, but he couldn't ignore them. They needed him, and deep inside, he needed them too. The next morning, they started walking toward the mountains. Ryan carried the supplies, while the children followed close. As they walked, strange machines hidden in the ground began to activate. Turrets rose from the dirt but didn't fire. Instead, they scanned the children and shut down quietly. Ryan stared in confusion. These machines. "They recognize you," he said. The children didn't answer, but they looked at each other. Something was definitely strange. Later that day, while resting in a small cave, the boy suddenly touched the wall. The rock shook, and a hidden panel opened, revealing food, blankets, and water. Ryan was stunned. "You knew this was here?" he asked. The boy tilted his head and smiled just a little. That night, as Ryan watched the stars, he finally asked, "Who are you really?" The girl pointed at her head and said, "We are made different." She struggled with words, but Ryan understood. He looked up at the sky, wondering if someone was watching them even now. Drones, bounty hunters, or worse. He had to keep moving, keep the kids safe, even if the path was dangerous. The burden he carried was no longer just about survival. It was about protecting a future he didn't yet understand. And deep down, he felt that these children might be the key to something much bigger than himself. He tightened the straps on his gear and whispered to the sleeping kids, "Don't worry, I'll get you to sanctuary outside." High above in the sky, red lights blinked slowly in the clouds. Someone had found their trail. The chase begins. The morning was quiet, too quiet. Ryan's eyes opened quickly as a strange sound echoed through the air. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't an animal. It was a deep humming sound, mechanical and cold. He stood up and looked at the sky. A dark shape moved through the clouds above them. It was long, sharp, and silent. A ship, but not one he recognized. It circled above slowly. Scanning the land below, Ryan quickly shook the children awake. "We have to move," he whispered, "now." The boy and girl stood up without a word. They grabbed their small bags and followed Ryan. He led them through the rocky path. Hiding behind trees and cliffs, the pendant around his neck glowed softly, as if it knew danger was close. As they moved deeper into the valley, Ryan noticed something strange. The plants around them bent slightly toward the children. Some lights in old machines flickered as they passed. Even nature itself seemed to respond to them. They found shelter in an old building that looked like a tower, half covered in vines. Inside, it was dark and dusty. But safe for now, Ryan sat near a broken window and watched the sky. The ship was still there, slowly coming closer. The girl sat near him and whispered, "They are hunters." Ryan looked at her, surprised. "You know them?" She nodded. "They take gifted ones for tests." His heart sank. The widow's warning echoed in his mind. They are not what they seem. Suddenly, the ground shook. A loud boom came from outside. Ryan peeked through the window. A small pod had landed near their last campsite. Two figures in black armor stepped out, carrying scanners and weapons. "They tracked us," Ryan said. He turned to the kids. "We run now." They left the tower and moved down the slope. But it wasn't easy. Drones flew overhead, scanning the area. Ryan used a broken energy shield to block the signals for a few minutes. But then, a red light appeared behind them. The hunters were close. They began to run, faster than before. Ryan carried the girl while the boy followed closely. They reached a narrow path between two cliffs as they entered. The rocks around them began to glow. The pendant pulsed with light and the cliffs shifted slightly. A hidden path opened on the side, just wide enough for them to enter. Inside, it was quiet again. They had found a secret cave filled with ancient markings and strange lights. Ryan looked around in awe. "What is this place?" he asked. The boy touched a wall, and a glowing screen appeared. It showed a map of the moon and several marked points. One of them flashed the sanctuary. Ryan sighed in relief. "We're going the right way." But then the screen changed. It showed the enemy ship and the two hunters moving closer. A red line showed their path. They would find the cave in minutes. Ryan looked at the kids. "We need to trap them." He searched the cave and found an old defense panel. It still had some power left. He activated the defense system and set a timer. "We'll leave before it explodes," he said. They crawled through a tunnel at the back of the cave. Just as they reached the exit, a loud explosion shook the ground. Dust and fire filled the air behind them. Ryan smiled a little. "That'll slow them down." But as they walked away, the boy suddenly stopped. He looked back and whispered, "More are coming." Ryan turned, scanning the skies. More ships were arriving, small and fast. The chase wasn't over. It was just beginning. They climbed up a rocky hill and reached an open field. In the middle stood a broken ship, small, but maybe usable. Ryan rushed to it and checked the controls. "Old model, but it might fly," he said. He started the engine. The ship shook but came to life. The kids got inside and held on to each other. As the enemy drones closed in, Ryan lifted the ship into the air. They flew low, avoiding direct paths, hiding between cliffs and clouds. One of the drones caught up and fired a shot. The ship shook, alarms blaring. Ryan pressed a red button. The ship dropped smoke and fire behind it. The drone crashed into the mountain. The ship flew on, damaged but still in the air. Ryan looked back at the kids. "We're not safe yet, but we're alive." The boy touched the wall, and it lit up again, showing another map. This time, the sanctuary was closer. Ryan flew toward it, heart pounding, behind them. The enemy ships regrouped and followed. The burden was heavy. The path was dangerous. But Ryan had made a promise to protect them, no matter what, and now the chase had truly begun. Secrets of the Widow. The ship shook as it landed behind a tall ridge, hidden from the sky. Smoke rose from the back engine, but they were safe, for now. Ryan jumped out first, scanning the horizon for enemy drones. Nothing in sight, just dust and silent rocks. He helped the children down, both tired and quiet. They had flown for hours, always being chased, always running. Ryan's arms ached, his eyes were heavy, but he couldn't rest yet. They needed shelter and answers. Fast, the pendant around his neck began to glow again. It pulsed in a slow rhythm. Like a heartbeat, the girl pointed at a rock wall nearby. "There," she said. Her voice soft. "It's calling." Ryan followed her to the wall, unsure what she meant. As they got closer, strange symbols appeared on the stone, glowing blue. The boy touched one of them, and the wall began to move. With a low rumble, a door opened, revealing a hidden room inside the cliff. It was warm and full of light. Machines hummed softly, and walls were lined with ancient screens. A chair stood in the center, surrounded by a glowing circle. As they stepped in, the door closed behind them, sealing them inside. Ryan looked around in shock. What is this place? The pendant lifted on its own and floated into the center of the room. The children stood still, watching with calm eyes. Then the room lit up, and a voice filled the air. It was the widow's voice, soft and full of pain. "If you have found this place, you are the one I trusted. Listen to my story, and you will understand." A hologram of the alien widow appeared in front of them. She stood tall, wearing armor with silver markings. Her voice continued. "I was a council leader of Valari, our homeworld, once full of peace and wisdom. But greed and fear broke us," she said. "My own people turned on me. They feared what we created, my children, my blood. They said mixing human and Valari blood would destroy balance." Ryan stepped back in surprise. "Wait, human blood?" The widow looked directly at him. "Yes," she said. "The children are not just mine, they are also yours." Ryan froze. "That's not possible," he whispered. The widow explained, "Years ago, a human explorer came too. Valari, brave and kind. He helped our people during a crisis, and I fell in love. But the council saw our bond as a crime. They erased him from history. But I carried his legacy, our children. When war began, I ran with them, hiding in the old colonies." Ryan felt his chest tighten. Could it be true? Were the children part human? He looked at them, the way they listened, the way they responded to him. It all made sense now. The hologram continued. "They are special. They can shape technology, feel life energy, even heal the enemies. Know this, and they will hunt them forever. But they also need guidance, love, and protection. That's why I chose you, Ryan Cole. You carry the same heart as their father." Ryan sank to the ground, overwhelmed. The children stood beside him, one placing a hand on his shoulder. He looked at them again, not just survivors, but family. The room shifted as the message. A side door opened, revealing supplies, food, medicine, weapons, and maps. One map showed the exact path to the sanctuary. Now only a day away. Ryan took a deep breath. He had come here alone, just another explorer trying to survive. Now he had a new purpose, a new responsibility. These weren't just alien kids. I think they were his family. He stood up and faced them. "I'm not going to let anyone take you," he said. "We finished this together." The boy smiled for the first time, just a little. The girl nodded, her eyes glowing softly. They rested that night in the hidden room, warm and safe for the first time in days, but Ryan knew peace wouldn't last. He stayed awake, watching the door, ready to fight if needed. Outside, high in the sky, enemy ships continued to search, but deep inside the mountain, a father and his children were ready for what came next. The secrets of the widow had changed everything. Now, the journey to sanctuary meant more than just escape. It meant hope, family, and the future of two worlds. And Ryan was ready to protect it all. The betrayal of the sun was rising as Ryan and the children left the hidden mountain room. The sky was clear, but danger still hung in the air like smoke. Ryan kept his hand near his weapon, always watching the sky. They were getting closer to the sanctuary, but the enemy wouldn't give up easily. They followed the map from the widow's hologram through quiet valleys, dry rivers, and forests filled with strange, glowing trees. The pendant still guided them, flashing gently with every turn. By midday, they reached an old landing station. It looked broken, with vines climbing the metal walls. But as they approached, a voice called out, "Stop right there!" Ryan turned quickly, weapon ready. A tall alien stepped out from behind a rock, wearing light armor. He had green skin, 4 fingers, and bright yellow eyes, but he held no weapon, just a scanner in one hand. "I'm not here to fight," the alien said. "Name's Trevek. I'm one of the last peacekeepers." Ryan didn't lower his weapon. "Prove it." Trevek raised both hands slowly. "I know who you are. Ryan Cole. You're the human carrying the widow's children." Ryan's eyes narrowed. "How do you know that?" "I was her ally once," Trevek replied, "before the council fell. I fought beside her during the last war." The children stepped out from behind Ryan, staring at Trevek with cautious eyes. Trevek bowed his head respectfully. "They carry her spirit, I can see that." Ryan hesitated, then slowly lowered his weapon. Trevek pointed to the landing station. "There's a working ship inside. Not fast, but safe. I can take you to the sanctuary." Ryan looked at the kids, then back at Trevek. They needed help, and the path ahead was still long. "All right," he said. "But if you try anything, you'll shoot me," Trevek finished. "Understood." They followed him into the station. The ship was old but clean, clearly maintained over time. Trevek opened the back door. "There's food and a place to rest. I'll prepare for launch." Ryan let the kids go inside first, then followed carefully for the first time. In days, things felt easier, too easy. As Ryan checked the storage room, something caught his eye. A strange marking on one of the crates, the same symbol worn by the hunters. His heart sank. He stepped back into the main room where Trevek was at the controls. "Where did you get this ship?" Ryan asked sharply. Trevek didn't turn. "I found it years ago." Ryan pulled out the pendant. Letting it glow, the children stood behind him. Eyes wide, Trevek finally turned, and his smile was gone. "You really are like her," he said. Coldly, always looking for lies. Suddenly, metal walls dropped from the ceiling. Locking the exit, Ryan raised his weapon. "You lied," Trevek sighed. "Not everything. I did know her. And I do believe the children are special. But I work for someone else now." Ryan aimed at his head. "Who?" Trevek gave a small laugh. "The ones who understand true power. The ones who want to use the children to control all life." The boy's eyes started glowing bright blue. Energy in the room shifted as the ship's lights flickered. Trevik looked uneasy. They can't control it yet, but they will. Ryan didn't wait. He shot at the wall controls, breaking the lock panel. Sparks flew as the door slid open halfway. Run! He shouted to the kids. The children crawled through the gap, and Ryan followed. Trevik shouted behind them, but didn't chase, maybe afraid of the children's power. Outside, they ran toward the forest. Deeper into the shadows, drones flew above, but they didn't stop. Ryan felt anger boiling in his chest. He had trusted someone again, and it almost cost him everything. They rested in a quiet cave that night. The children didn't speak, just huddled close to each other. Ryan sat at the edge of the cave, watching the stars. He felt tired, not just in his body, but deep in his heart. Every time he trusted someone, it turned into danger, but when he looked back at the children, he knew why he kept going. They were more than just powerful. They were still just kids, and he had promised to protect them. The girl walked over and sat beside him. She placed the pendant in his hand and whispered, "You? Our father now." Ryan's throat tightened. He didn't answer, just nodded slowly, far above. Trevik spoke into a hidden communicator. "They escaped, but not for long," he said. "They're heading toward the sanctuary." A deep voice replied, "Let them. We'll be waiting." The revelation: the morning was cold, and the wind was sharp. Ryan stepped out of the cave. His eyes scanning the horizon, he saw mountains in the distance. Tall and shining under the pale sun, the sanctuary was close now, only a few hours away. The children came out behind him, quiet but calm. Their faces were tired, but their steps were strong. Ryan held the pendant in his hand and looked at the glowing map. The path was clear, through the narrow valley and over the final ridge. As they walked, the land around them began to change. The rocks were smooth, the trees taller, and the air warmer. It felt strange but peaceful, like something powerful was watching over the land. The pendant glowed brighter with every step. The boy reached out and touched a nearby tree. It responded by lighting up, leaves glowing with soft light. Ryan watched, amazed. "You can feel this place, can't you?" The boy nodded slowly. "It knows us." The girl pointed ahead, almost there. Soon, they reached the valley entrance. A large stone gate stood in their way, covered in alien markings. Ryan stepped forward and held up the pendant. The markings lit up, and the gate began to open with a low, deep sound. Inside was a large, open space, filled with ruins and glowing crystals. In the center stood a tall tower, shining silver, untouched by time. It looked like a beacon, calling them in. As they walked toward it, something moved in the air. A soft blue light appeared, floating in front of them. Then it formed into the shape of the widow, a clear and glowing hologram. "Welcome, Ryan." "Cole," her voice said, calm and kind. "You have brought them home." Ryan stood still, shocked. "How do you know I'm here?" he asked. The widow smiled. "This place was built to protect them. It is alive. It listens to the pendant, and it listens to them." The children walked closer to the hologram. The boy reached out and touched it, but his hand passed through. The widow looked down at them with gentle eyes. "You were born with power not meant for war," she said. "You were born to bring balance between species." Ryan stepped forward. "But why me? I'm just a man, a broken one." The hologram looked at him. "You are more than that," she said. "You are human, full of choice, heart, and pain. And that makes you stronger than any weapon." She turned to the children. "You must choose your path," she said. "Hide or lead." The girl whispered, "We don't want to run anymore." The boy added, "We want to help." The widow smiled. "Then you must awaken the core." She pointed to the tower. "Inside is the heart of this place." The door to the tower opened slowly, and bright lights spilled out. Ryan and the children stepped inside. The air inside was warm, filled with energy. They followed the stairs to a round chamber with a glowing orb in the center. The children walked to the orb without fear. They placed their hands on it, and the light grew stronger. Images appeared in the air: stars, planets, ancient wars, and lost memories. Ryan saw the widow again, younger and stronger. She was holding a human man's hand. His face was blurry, but Ryan felt a strange connection. Could that man be his ancestor? The room shook gently as the orb responded to the children's touch. A voice filled the space, deep and powerful. "Core accepted," it said. "Guardians recognized." The tower came to life. Machines whirring, crystals glowing, signals spreading. Ryan looked around, amazed. This place. It's waking up. The pendant around his neck floated into the air and merged with the orb. A map appeared, showing the moon, enemy ships, and something bigger. A large fleet was gathering in orbit, preparing to attack. "They're coming," Ryan said. The girl nodded. "But now we are ready." The tower sent out a beam of light into the sky, across the moon. Old defense systems activated. Hidden weapons rose from the ground. Shields powered up, and drones flew into position. The sanctuary was not just a safe place, it was a fortress built to protect the future of both humans and aliens. Ryan stood at the center, heart pounding. He had come here by accident, but now he stood at the heart of something much greater. He turned to the children. "We defend this together." They nodded. No longer afraid, the girl looked at him and said, "You are our home." Far above, the enemy ships changed direction. Their scanners had picked up the signal. The sanctuary had awakened, and now they were coming to stop it. But this time, Ryan wasn't running. He was ready to fight, and he wasn't alone. Humanity rises. The sky above the sanctuary turned dark. Enemy ships covered the clouds, blocking the light. Their engines hummed like thunder, and red lights flashed across the land. Ryan stood on the highest platform of the tower, watching them. "Come," the children stood beside him, calm but alert. They had changed. Not just in power, but in spirit. They no longer looked like scared survivors. They looked like leaders. "Are you ready?" Ryan asked. The boy nodded. "Yes," the girl whispered. "Let them come." All across the sanctuary, defense systems were active. Shields glowed across the valley. Drones flew in patterns, and cannons pointed to the sky. But it was still not enough. The enemy had numbers, speed, and no mercy inside the tower. Ryan spoke into the control panel. "This is Ryan Cole, human explorer and protector of Alari children. If anyone can hear this, we need help. We are not just fighting for survival. We are fighting for the future." His voice echoed into space, sent through every hidden channel. Then he turned to the children. "It's time." The first wave of enemy ships dropped into the atmosphere. Sleek black fighters and heavy carriers. All armed and ready, they fired beams of red energy toward the ground. The sanctuary's shields held, but they wouldn't last forever. Ryan jumped into one of the old defense ships parked inside the tower base. It was small, fast, and built for a single pilot. He strapped in and looked at the children through the glass. "You stay here. Protect the core," he said. The girl placed her hand on the ship's hull. "You protect yourself too," she said softly. Ryan smiled and launched into the sky. The ship shook as it rose through the wind and heat of the coming battle. Drones followed him, ready to fight. The air was filled with chaos. Lasers cut through the sky. Explosions rocked the clouds. Ryan flew fast, dodging enemy fire, taking down one ship at a time. His human instincts and training gave him an edge the machines couldn't match. But they kept coming, wave after wave, back on the ground. The children stood in the core room, hands glowing. They poured energy into the tower, keeping the shields alive. Then something changed. The pendant, now part of the core, pulsed with new light. A signal spread from the tower, farther than before across systems into deep space, and someone answered from beyond the stars. A human fleet appeared, ships marked with Earth's symbol, the United Human Front. They had received Ryan's message, and they were ready. The sky lit up again, but now with hope. Human ships entered the fight, blasting through enemy lines. Ryan heard their voices in his comm system. "This is Captain Myra of the UHF cruiser. Resolve, Ryan Cole. We've got your signal, and we've got your back." Ryan felt strength return to his arms. He fought harder, flying through fire and smoke. Enemy ships started falling back. The humans had come, and they were winning. On the ground, the children raised their hands high. Their power reached beyond the sanctuary. Old machines deep in the planet woke up. Ancient systems created by the Volari long ago, powerful and full of memory, together with the human fleet. They turned the battle the enemy had never faced. Humans and Volari together. They didn't understand the power of unity. One by one, the enemy ships exploded. Some tried to escape, but the human fleet chased them away. Ryan landed his ship near the tower, smoke rising from the engines. He jumped, outran inside, and saw the children standing in a circle of light. The pendant glowed above them, now whole again. Ryan stepped forward, breathing hard. "It's over," he said. "You did it?" The boy smiled. "No, we all did." The girl walked to him and held his hand. "You didn't just save us," she said. "You saved everything." A message came from the UHF ship above Ryan Cole. "You and the children are under the protection of the Earth Alliance. Return when ready. We welcome you home." Ryan looked at the children, then at the sky. "Do you want to go to Earth?" he asked. The girl nodded. "Only if you come with us," the boy added. "You are our home," Ryan smiled, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. He looked at the sky and whispered, "Let's go home." The sanctuary would remain now fully awake and guarded, a symbol of hope for both humans and aliens. A reminder that even in the darkest times, love and courage can change everything. Ryan had come to this moon as a stranger. But now, he was a father, a fighter, and a legend, and in the stars above, the story of the human who saved the last bloodline would be remembered forever.